Fantastic.
Great.
Great. So who's excited to be here tonight? Who's excited to learn? Who's looking forward to leaving this 2 hour session with their mind blown and having a lot more knowledge and information and excitement and inspiration as they look at their real estate career in 2026?
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yep.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So what I wanted to start by saying is that you're in the right room at the right time, right? You happen to be at the right room at the right time with the right instructor because I'm here to deliver some information today that's really going to be impactful for you as you consider what does my career in real estate look like as I embark on this new year. So, Happy New Year first and foremost to everyone here. I tend to say Happy New Year until about the 25th of the month, and then I pick it back up sometime in February, depending upon when we last saw you. So, Happy New Year to you. My name is Anthony Rollins. I am a veteran real estate agent with Keller Williams, currently at the Beverly Hills Market Center in Los Angeles. I got my start with Keller Williams back in 2007. Just had my 18th year anniversary with this company. I have
Mm.
been in several different market centers, including Overland Park, Kansas, Santa Monica, California, Beverly Hills, California, and then worked with several market centers in the Houston area back when I lived in Texas for a few years in between 2013 and 2017. And one of the reasons why I tell you guys you're in the right room at the right time, it all starts with being at the right company. Um, I say a lot of things about this company, and one of the things that I say about Keller Williams is that it is not only made, it's not one of the best business decisions that I've made. It's one of the best life decisions that I've made because it's made me a better person in every aspect of my life. And I've been saying that for about 18 years, and God willing, I'll be able to say it for several years to come. This company has made me who I am. It has taught me how to think in ways I didn't think were possible. It has taught me how to see things that I didn't know were available to see. And one of the best things about this company is the opportunity that it can provide you above and beyond your coming here to be a real estate agent, right? The majority of you may have come here to say this is the best place to hang my real estate license, which I do believe it is. And yet there is so much more to this company than just a place to run your real estate business. This company is really about who you become in the process of learning how to be an effective real estate agent and running a business. So tonight in Ignite After Dark, we are going to be talking about a couple of sessions here, the path to production, connect with your market, and then we're going to switch gears and talk about defining your value. And it's one of my favorite classes to teach about defining your value is because really knowing how to define your value is an exercise in discovery. It's an exercise in discovery about who you are as an individual and what characteristics, what about you do you bring to the table that differentiates you from other agents. Now, here in LA, the average person has about, 8 to 10,000 different real estate agent options to consider. So, I don't know who's marking on your iPad there. Is that Adele? But you're showing up on my screen, and you may be showing up on other screens. So, I don't know if there's a way to maybe check and see what the setting is on that. So again, understanding your value first as an individual, what do you bring to the table? And then once you have an understanding of that, your ability to effectively articulate that to the buyer or seller across the room is going to have a direct impact in your success as a real estate agent. Now, throughout tonight, I will be saying a lot of things. I'm going to be mentioning a lot of things that are on these slides, and I'm going to be dropping some information with you guys that's not on the slide. So I hope you have pens and paper ready. And if I say something like, you're going to want to write this down, you'll want to write this down. All right. So moving right into tonight's content. Getting through a couple of disclaimers here. TCPA, Telecommunications Consumer Protection Act. Basically, that means that when it comes to calling people, we have to be careful of who we call. We cannot call people who are on the do not call list. We cannot reach out to people who we have not established a relationship with beforehand and solicit them. And we have to be able to call people that we know and then call people who have opted in to receive communications from us. So examples of opting in, so you know, if you're holding an open house and you have a sign-in sheet, and at the bottom of that sign-in sheet, it says, hey, by you filling this information in, you give consent to be contacted by Keller Williams and their associates. That's one way to get permission for someone to opt in and for you to call them. Another way would be if you're running Facebook ads, for example. So you run a Facebook ad that says, hey, put in your name, email, and phone number and receive information on this property or to receive this guide. They are opting in, and that therefore gives you the right to reach out to them. TCPA is real. The lawsuits are real. The fines are real. And we want to be careful because, you make a bad call to the wrong person and you get hit with a fine and you could be out of this industry before you even have a chance to start. So that's all I'll say about that. And getting right into tonight's content here. So, course overview for tonight. We're going to be talking about connect with your market, and then we're going to be talking about defining your value, as I mentioned. So our agenda for tonight includes knowing your market, build your expertise, utilize resources, daily success habits, and then recap and ahas. So we're going to have slides tonight, and I'm sure you guys have seen those in the first two classes where it says aha. When we get to aha, I love for people to at least give me 3 ahas of what they have learned in that section. Just to kind of keep a pulse on what you guys are taking in, what impact it's having. So feel free when it's time for ahas, raise your hand, drop it in the chat, or you can come off mic and speak your aha. All right, from Gary Keller, our founder and chairman of Keller Williams Realty and author of The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. He says, here's the truth. If it has been done in another market, it can be done in your market. Once it has been done, no matter where, it's just a matter of finding out how that can be possible in your world. And this is a pretty big statement here that goes a little bit deeper than real estate. When Gary Keller was, devising Keller Williams, he was reading a few books at the time, and they were influencing what was in his head and what he then created when he launched Keller Williams. And one of the books he was reading was a Tony Robbins book. I believe it may have been Unlimited Power, if I'm correct. And Tony Robbins is big on modeling. So as you know, Keller Williams is a company it's a trading-based company with systems and models, right? And what the magic of models is that they eliminate us having to recreate the wheel. And so when he says if it's been done in another market, it can be done in your market, what he's basically saying is that if it's been done before, there's a model for it. So instead of going out to recreate the wheel, why not just follow the model? Right? And then we change some things within the model based on where we are. Price points are going to be different. Target audiences are going to be different. Demographics are going to be different. But the truth is that we as human beings are pretty much more alike across the universe than we are unalike. So our ability to be able to model proven systems and models is going to cut the learning curve significantly, and it's going to make our business something that is then predictable. And when our life is predictable, we have peace of mind, right? When we know what the outcome's going to be, when we have expectations that are met, then there's no surprises. Real estate can be a business where if you're not following systems and models, it can be like this. It can be like a roller coaster ride. And although I enjoy roller coasters, I don't enjoy my business being that like a roller coaster. So I don't like peaks and valleys in my business because some months you do great, other months you don't do so great. So when we can take a model and replicate the model and then just do what the model says to do, it eliminates having to think, number one, and then it also makes our actions and our outcomes become more predictable. All right, so as we start today, we're going to talk about knowing your market. So knowing and connecting with your market is all about research and preparation. And especially as newer agents, there's so much to consider. Everything is new. Oftentimes, here at Keller Williams, the joke is that it's like you're drinking out of a fire hose because there's so much information that's coming at you. And this company is content rich, right? We are the number one training organization across all industries and have been for years, and won that designation from Training Magazine so many times where they just gave us a lifetime achievement for being the number one training organization. So if it's information that you need, Keller Williams has it. Um, that's great. The downside of that is that it can be so overwhelming to where you don't know where to start. And on that note, I want to tell you guys, as far as where to start, there's certain things to consider. You're gonna start somewhere. Maybe it's where your first open house is. Maybe it's in the neighborhood where you live. Maybe it's because your best friend is going to trust you in helping them buy a home. And then that's where you start. You either start to learn price points in that area where you live, or in that area where your friend is looking for a house, or in that area because you've chosen that area to be a demographics farm. My advice to you is start small and then expand. Start small, learn a niche, and then expand. Having said that, I'm also going to say that you want to be out previewing property as much as possible as a newer agent. Here in LA and in most areas, they have a weekly tour, a broker's tour, broker's caravan, and that's a day when all the new listings are open for the brokers to come by and preview. I would be spending my time out there learning inventory. You want to start to learn price points in certain areas, and I would pick an area and either start with either entry-level condos or possibly entry-level single-family homes, figure out what are those price points in each one of those, and start going to visit inventory and learning it. And then as your knowledge grows, you'll expand and you'll learn more about other markets. So if you start with condos, then you can move to single-family homes. Once you learn single family homes, and you can consider 2 to 4 units, and yet don't get overwhelmed. Start small and then expand. And that way you won't lose your focus. All right. So there's three types of real estate markets. We have a buyer's market, we have a balanced market, and we have a seller's market. So if you can imagine a pendulum that is straight up and down, that's going to be a balanced market. Anything in this direction, in this balanced market, excuse me, has got 6 months of inventory. So here it says 5 to 7. For all the time that I've been a real estate agent for the last 20 plus years, it's pretty much been a balanced market of 6 months of inventory, right? So here we are. If we have more than 6 months of inventory, then we move to a buyer's market. If we have less than 6 months worth of inventory, we are in a seller's market. So what that means is that a buyer's market typically means that there are more homes for sale than there are buyers to buy them. In a balanced market, that means that there is a balanced number of available homes for sale and buyers for those homes. And in a seller's market, it means that there are more buyers than there are available homes. And we've seen in the last 10 years that we have been in a pretty much a seller's market. We're still by definition in a seller's market, although this market is deceiving. Some areas, depending on where you live, if you live in Florida or if you live in Austin or if you live in Vegas, those are not sellers markets. Those are buyers markets. Those are buyers markets with heavy amounts of inventory and areas like Florida, some areas in Florida, they have so much inventory to where things are kind of fragile because they could go in either direction as far as a continuation on a downward trend. So those are the definitions of a buyer of a market. Currently, I Googled how many months of inventory do we have nationally earlier before the call, and we've got about 4.2 months of inventory on resale and about 7.9 months of inventory on new construction. And this is a nationwide number. So we understand that real estate markets are local, and even to a greater extent, they are hyper local. So, what do I mean by that? So, we have a national real estate market, which is national. We have regional markets, West, Midwest, Rockies, East Coast, South. And then we have local markets. So, the local market for me would be the LA market. The hyper local market may be a 5 mile radius around where I live. So as you guys start to learn markets, understand that there's a differentiation in between markets. So when we're talking to buyers and sellers and they are listening to national news and getting national information, they are oftentimes being misled as to what is really happening at the local level. And it's our job as real estate agents who study home values every day to be able to tell them the truth. That's why we learn about markets. Any questions on three types of markets? All right. So inventory. Inventory is a number of properties for sale within a market. And you know what? I'm going to see if I can, let me see if I can do this. All right. Look at that. Now we got a big screen here. Inventory. Inventory is a number of properties for sale within a market. So what is the inventory of your market? You guys may be able just to pull out your phones, go on Google and say, hey, how many homes are for sale in blank? And you could either put in your zip code or your city and see what it comes up with. How many months of inventory are in my city? And months of inventory literally means that if no other homes came on the market, when would you run out of available homes for sale? So if the national months of inventory is 4.2, that basically means at the current pace at which homes are being sold, if no other homes came onto the market, we would run out of inventory at the national level in 4.2 months. So knowing that number is good because it gives you an idea as to the pace of the market. So when we talk about months worth of inventory, we have an idea of where we are and it defining a buyer, seller, or a balanced market and what the forecast is for future months of inventory. And we know that real estate is secular and that we are now somewhat in the slowest time of the year. Right around the holidays is the slowest time of the year. As we get into the month of January and the new year starts to get stabilized, and typically right around the time of the State of the Union address, people kind of wait to see what's going to be going on at the national level and the government, and then they start making decisions as to what 2026 is going to look like. And then as we get further and further into the year, the market picks up and peaks in the months of May and June. And then it starts to slow down again, July, August, September, and then we have our fall market. So inventory tends to follow that trend. And as real estate agents, it's our goal and our obligation to kind of know what that looks like so we can properly advise our buyers and sellers when they're looking to make a buying or selling decision. What is the average number of days a home stays on the market? This information should be available to you guys through your MLS. I know in my MLS, I can do that search by MLS area. I can do that by zip code as well and pull up months worth of inventory, average days on market, and then actual typical price of a home, both average price and median price as well. And then based on the inventory, what type of real estate market are you in? Well, we went through that. So if we're a balanced market, we're somewhere around 6 months. If we're more than that, we've got a buyer's market. If we're less than that, we've got a seller's market. Um, I'll say this. Markets can change on a dime. Um, you know, things that we think are really stable can be disrupted overnight, right? War breaks out, earthquake in California, fires in California, hurricane in Texas, hurricane in Florida, flood in North Carolina. All these things have an impact at the local level in which they're happening. And yet, depending upon how big that event is, it can have tremendous effects on the market in that area and the outlying markets in that area as well. So, for example, last year, in fact, a year ago, right now, Pacific Palisades fire, Altadena, Pasadena fires, when you have 7,000 homes burn, you've got a lot of displaced people and a lot of people who don't have a place to live. So that is having an impact on the entire LA market as a whole immediately in available homes for rent, for sale, new construction, resale, everything. So things can change quickly. Interest rates can have a big impact on what direction a market's going in. Right now, we're seeing pretty favorable interest rates. I did check earlier today. Interest rates on the 10-year, the 15-year, the 20, and the 30 are all below 6%. So somewhere in between 5.25 and 5.85, which is pretty good and worth sharing. That's news that's worth sharing for buyers and sellers. If you haven't let them know that, hey, it's a new year and interest rates are under 6%, which creates great buying opportunities for people who have been sitting on the fence. If we saw a 0.5% drop in interest rates, we'd see a very quick uptick in buyers getting in the market. Same way, if we saw a 0.5% increase, we would see buyers pulling out because they have less buying power when rates are high and they have more buying power when they're low. And because nationally we have an issue with affordability, right? Affordability is how much of someone's paycheck is going to cover a mortgage and what percentage of the population can afford a median priced home. Because we have an issue with affordability, it's impacting the market as a whole. So not only knowing inventory numbers, but knowing the numbers that drive inventory are going to make us more knowledgeable, and we're able to share that information with our clients so they can make better decisions that are in their best interest. All right. So, like I was saying, interest rates and lender regulations. Make contacts with lenders in your area so you can stay up to date on your market and answer any questions your clients may have about the process. So, my suggestion to you, and you'll want to write this down, have three lenders. We always want to have at least three recommendations for our clients, no matter if it's home inspectors, if it's roof inspectors, if it's lenders. Um, have three. General contractors, the same thing. Have three. That way we are we're clear from having pointed them in any direction and not giving them enough choice. And there's no liability on us if we've given them three. I say have three. I have a primary lender who's my go-to lender. They get the majority of my deals. They're the people who I can call at any time. If I need something done quickly, I'll call them. And then I have a second and a third lender who, if the first person is out of town and they can't handle it, then I'll call the second one. And then the third one may be more of a specialty type lender that's going to do, maybe some loan types that aren't so traditional, some out of the box creative financing, and just sometimes not all buyers are going to fit into a certain type of loan. So, being able to have different lenders for your different variety of clients is going to it's gonna make you a better real estate agent, and make sure that you have a lender who can speak Spanish, because that's a bonus. And nowadays, you definitely need a lender in your arsenal who is bilingual and can work with Spanish speaking clients. All right, economic factors. So we know economic factors play an important role in an agent's understanding the market. Um, I talk about the three eyes, the three-eyed monster. The three-eyed monster is basically interest rates, inflation, and inventory, and the impact that they all have on each other and how they drive each other and what they can individually or collectively do to impact the real estate market. What's the unemployment rate in your market? I know we know nationally unemployment, I think is about 4.3%. Again, that can be a local number. If it's higher at the local level and more people are getting laid off, or if you happen to live in the city where there are corporations there, and if they lay off 1,500 employees from a corporation, well, that's 1,500 people at the local level who have just gotten impacted by what's going on, economically. So how many workers are entering or exiting the workforce in your market? What's the growth rate of your community? And has the government made any changes to rules and regulations that might affect the housing market? As we head into 2026, there's the real estate market's pretty it's pretty unique right now. Like I said, we're a seller's market based on the definition of available homes. We've got some major metro markets that are in deep buyer markets, and a couple that are in, borderline free fall as far as a drop in prices over the last, 2 or 3 years. And from an inventory standpoint, we have nationally gotten back to inventory levels that we hadn't previously been at prior to 2019. And yet, like I said, it's really local. It's really local. So pay attention um, to things that are driving real estate. Like I said, inventory, interest rates, inflation. Know what's going on with that, because the more we know about them and the more we know how it's impacting the market, the better we can educate our clients, and they will thank us for sharing that information with them, because again, they can make a better decision, a more informed decision that's in their best interest. All right. Any questions on any of this so far? The economic factors, inventory, interest rates, lenders. All right. All right. Moving right along. Other important market factors to investigate: neighborhood numbers. nearby shops and restaurants, nearby health facilities, neighborhood attractions. So when it comes to the areas that we are working in, it's important to know what sort of shops, restaurants, the things that impact the lifestyle, right? Where we move to, where we live is such a big decision because there's so much that goes into our surroundings, our neighbors, the neighborhoods, the quality of the school, access to freeways, access to coffee shops, shopping malls, supermarkets, walkability, close to major transit. All these factors come into play that impact how we live day to day. So, oftentimes people will choose neighborhoods and areas based on affordability. And that's typically how the first home that you buy, you're basically buying where you can afford to buy. And yet, you still want to have information on what is accessible to me in this area. And again, our ability to articulate what's going on with school systems, how far away you are from major airports, how far away you are from local transit lines, freeway access. All these things come into play. So when we ask questions during our consultations with buyers and sellers, we ask them, so what matters most to you about where you decide to live? And if they say, I've got two kids that are going to be getting into school next year, so schools are important. I like to park the car on Friday and not drive it until Monday morning. So my ability to get up and on Saturday and go walk the dog and grab Starbucks is important to me. So when we ask more questions and we get a better idea of what's important to our clients and we have that information to share, again, we're helping them make better decisions because they are well informed. All right. Any ahas from that first little section there? Any ahas? At least one aha for me.
Oh,
What's that?
Isaiah Ha.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Ramiro?
Good teaching.
Okay, let's see. Know your local market. Will you have access to the recording? Yes, Doug, you will have access to this recording. What matters most? Yeah, right. So we're going to talk about that in the next section when we meet with buyers and sellers about doing a buyer consultation or a listing presentation and doing a needs want analysis, right? So a needs wants analysis is helping us get clarity on what the client is looking for and what's most important to them. And it's also helping the client get clarity on what's important to them. Um, because when they have clarity and we have clarity, we are both in alignment. So when we're in alignment with what the buyer's looking for, and we're out previewing properties on the broker caravan, and we go see that house that checks all the boxes, that's when we start getting excited and literally our heart starts beating quick and we're like, oh my God, like I got to text you, like you got to get and see this house. This is perfect. And then when they come and see the house, then we can say, hey, it checks this box. So the bedrooms, it's got the backyard, the dog park's right down the street. The freeway is 5 minutes away. And then when it checks the boxes, this is a house we should be writing an offer on. Right? So we got to get people clear on what it is that they want. So when they see it, they can take action on it. And that's not often the case when it comes to buying homes, because oftentimes people will think that they haven't seen enough homes or they think they need to see more homes. And oftentimes if you've never bought a home, but you've gotten an apartment before, after you've looked at 4 or 5 apartments, they all just look the same and you're just confused. It's the same thing with buying a home. So when we get people clear on what it is that they want, and then we go out and we preview and we say, okay, I'm going to show you 5 homes based on your criteria, your needs, your wants, and your price point. And out of these 5, we're going to pick a home that you like the most, and that's going to be a home that we should write an offer on. Now, if there's 30 homes available, well, then you're going to have to use your expertise to really hone it down to the 5 or 6 that you're going to show them and ideally get them to write an offer on one. If you're in a market where there's not 30 homes available, but there's 5 in their price point, then again, knowing what they want is going to be real important because there's not a lot of options and no first home is the perfect home. No home period is the perfect home. But when we know what the needs are, the must-haves, and we know what the wants are, that I'd like to haves, and when a home has at least 3 out of our top needs and maybe 1 or 2 of our wants, that's a home we write an offer on. All right. So moving right along here to building your expertise. Okay, become the real estate expert of choice. Um, again, this is so important, and this is also intimidating as a new agent because there's so much to learn. And if you're new coming into the industry, you're like, oh my God, I don't know anything. And when you don't know anything, your biggest fear is that your client's going to know that you don't know anything. So here's how we get around that. We get around that by creating confidence, right? We have confidence, and confidence comes from competence. So when we learn about the market, when we learn about the buying process, even if we've never sold a home before, but when we know how to articulate and explain the process, when we know a price point in a certain area that a buyer is looking in, we have competence. And when we have competence, we then have confidence. And when we have confidence, that confidence is experienced across the other side of the table. And when we have confidence, when the other person has confidence, it's easier for us to then instill trust because trust and confidence is what makes the difference. So what I want to say to you guys is that, this industry is really not about selling homes. It is about making, and you're going to want to write this down. This industry is about making an emotional connection with someone that instills trust and confidence. This industry is not about selling homes. It is about making an emotional connection that instills trust and confidence. And once we've done that, then the rest of the process just unfolds. There is no uphill battle. There is no paddling upstream. There is no how many homes have you sold? How long have you been an agent? People just want to feel that they are not making a bad decision. People are just like us. When we feel trust and confidence, we can move forward with decision making. And one of my favorite BOLD laws, and Keller Williams we have a course called BOLD, which stands for Business Objective Life by Design. And there's a series of BOLD laws that are part of BOLD. And one of my favorite BOLD laws is, and you want to write this down, logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. We make decisions based on emotion. So when we're having a consultation with someone who we would like for them to choose us as their real estate agent in either representing them in the purchase of a home or the sale of a home, they are making an emotional decision. And if we even instill trust and confidence in them, they're going to sign the contract. That's all it is. So remember that because that goes a little bit deeper than sales. And a lot of times we're out there, we're working from fear and we're working from commission breath, and we're out there trying to sell something that we've never sold before or sell ourselves, and we don't even know how to articulate our own value, and like it just shows. But just remember why you're here. We are here to instill trust and confidence in people and allow them to feel safe. And when they can feel safe, they can then make a decision. And if we've done that, they're going to make the decision to choose us. Any questions on that? Because that's deep. But I like to spend a lot of time there. And there's a whole side of that way of thinking that goes below at a deeper level than anything about transacting a buyer and a seller. When you start to understand the psychology of sales and what that really looks like, then you have a better idea on how you need to show up as an individual. And when you have control over that, it doesn't matter if you've been selling for 6 weeks, 6 months, or 6 years. So, all right.
Anthony, can you repeat the second line?
Which part?
Logic makes you think. And what was
Oh,
the other
logic
one?
makes you think, emotion makes you act.
Thank you.
All right. So when I go on a listing presentation, I will tell them, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, no buyer is going to make an offer on your home until they have an emotional connection to it. And that's just the truth. So the question becomes, what are we going to do to elicit an emotional response from the buyer? And it has to be through some combination of price, value, condition, exposure, presentation, right? What does the buyer experience when they walk into that house? If we're not paying attention to that and we just think we're going to put a price on your home, a sign in the yard, slap it in the MLS and let the magic happen, you can forget about it because it's not that. It's not that. Years ago in the Starbucks experience, and I can recall that, with Starbucks, they hit the five senses, right? You walk into the establishment, you can see the establishment. The music is playing, you can hear, you can smell the coffee, right? We need to consider how are we being experienced by our clients, and how the homes that we represent and sell, how are they being experienced by the buyers that come in? And when we can pay attention to that, then like this becomes a different game that we're playing. All right. So 4 steps to building expertise. Learn the market. We just talked about that, right? We talked about, knowing what interest rates are, knowing what inventory is, knowing what days on market is, knowing what the median sales price is, knowing the percentage of homes that have taken a price reduction, because the percentage of homes that have taken a price reduction is the future indicator on which direction the market's going in. That's probably one of the biggest indicators of what is happening in the market to come. How many of the current homes on the market have taken a price reduction? And you definitely want to write that down. And if that information is available to you in your local MLS, well, then you have just become a genie as to what direction the market's heading in. Because when the percentage of homes that require a price reduction to sell is going up, well, guess what? Prices are going to be coming down. If the percentage of homes that need a price reduction to sell is lessening, then that means the market is stable and could be heading up. All right, Vance. Are you picking up what I'm dropping down? All right, all right, all right. So learning the market, right? And when we learn the market, right, that's the competence. And the competence then leads to the confidence. And the other two C's, The confidence then leads to the contracts, right? Because now I'm confident and I can present well and I can sit across from a buyer or a seller and deliver a value proposition that hits them at an emotional level and allows them to say yes openly and freely. And then they sign the contract. And then I can deliver on that value proposition. And in doing so, I get the contract signed. And then when I have delivered on it, the contract gets to the closing table. And then once we've gotten to the closing table and we close, and we get that fifth C, which is the commission check. But you see that commission check was number 5. It's not number 1. And if we start with the money in mind, then we come across as having commission breath. And buyers can smell commission breath, sellers can smell commission breath. And I don't know about you guys, but it's actually worse than morning breath. And it is a big turnoff. So come from a position of delivering value, come from contribution. Learning your clientele. So there's a couple of different parts to this, learning the clientele. So how do we learn our buyers and sellers? Well, we need to know in my market, what's the typical buyer, right? What's their current situation? Where do they live? What kind of job do they have? How much money do they make? How are they typically buying homes? Are they putting down 20%? Are they getting into first time home buyer program? Are they getting money from their parents? Are they or boyfriend, girlfriend getting together and combining forces and money to buy the home? What does that look like? That's one way. We have to know who the buyers and sellers are in our market. And then number 2, learning our clientele is knowing what is our specific avatar for a buyer or seller. Who do I like to work with? And if we don't know who we like to work with, then we're going to work with anybody. And as a newer agent, sometimes you got to work with anybody just to get your feet wet. But you don't want to become someone who just works with anybody and doesn't have a standard, right? Because who you work with is kind of like who you date. And we all have standards when it comes to dating. And you're either in that standard or you're not. It's the same thing with clientele and who we work with. So know who your avatar is. Who is your ideal client? And the clearer you are on who your ideal client is, the better the opportunity that they show up. Right? Just about the law of intention, the law of specific intent. Right? My ideal buyer, someone who is able, ready, and willing to buy, respects me as a professional, respects my knowledge and information, acts accordingly, acts with a sense of urgency. Get clear on who your avatar is for a buyer and a seller. And then that way, when they show up, you can say yes to them. And when the opposite shows up, then you can say, you know what, we're not a good fit. Because just like in a relationship, you're not going to date someone who's not an ideal avatar for you. You may for a date or two, but then you know it's not going anywhere. So you're going to break up. And there's no sense in working with people who are not a good fit for you and who are just going to suck your time and your emotion. So that's how we learn our clientele. And again, that's two-pronged. That's knowing the client, knowing who's buying and selling in my area, and then knowing what's my ideal client. Another way to do that is through a DISC profile, DISC profile. You'll want to write that down. Where can I go to take a DISC profile? So within your market center, you guys can all go talk to your MCA, your market center administrator, and say, hey, my instructor said I should take a DISC. Do you have a link where I can take a DISC profile and then have that validated so you know what your natural personality profile is? It's also good to know what is the DISC of our clients, right? What are the natural personality styles of the people that I'm working with? And when you know someone's natural personality style, well, then you know how to communicate with them a little better, right? So the DISC is a DISC. The D is a dominant, I is influence, S is social, I believe, and C is compliant. There's different words that describe those. So just to give you guys an example, if you have a husband and wife that come in, you know, uh, if the wife comes in and she says, "Oh, this house just feels so good," right? She's an I, right? She's social. That's an I. A D's going to come in and go, what's the number it's going to take to buy it, right? An S or C is going to be like, well, I need to see every single home that's sold in the last 90 days so I can calculate cost per square foot, median sales price, average sales price, and then use that information to let you know how much we're going to offer. So when we know this information up front, and there's certain ways where we can give little mini tests to our clients, just one or two questions to help them for us to discover which what they are in the disc profile. Then we know here's how you talk to an S. Here's how you communicate with a D. Here's what you don't say to an I. Right? When we know that, then we can show up at a different level and we can communicate completely different with people and connect to them. We can speak to their listening. And when we can speak to someone's listening, we are closer to instilling that trust and confidence that is going to allow them to feel safe and make that emotional decision and say yes to us. Listening to individuals. You know, always seek knowledge, show up at your team meetings, listen to what's being said by people who know what they're talking about, people who are out there in the trenches, people who are selling a lot of homes. Always seek knowledge, be a sponge. Right? I've been doing this for over 20 years, and every day I listen to a podcast. Every single day I listen to at least one podcast because information is always changing. What's new today is old tomorrow. And with the speed at which tech is going right now in AI, like you're either on the bus or like you're just left behind. So we always have to be seeking knowledge, right? Be learning based. That's one of the core philosophies of Keller Williams is commit to being learning based. So always be seeking knowledge. What am I listening to? What am I reading? Who am I listening to? Where am I getting my information from? And is it a credible source? There's a lot of that, a lot of different sources within this company where you can get credible information to build your specific knowledge base, and then feel free to share that knowledge with your buyers and sellers. And then the last one here, keep the headlines in context. Well, we know why, right? Because the media's job is to, sensationalize everything and keep us in a state of fear, right? That's just the truth. So take everything with a grain of salt, especially when it comes to real estate. Know what national news is versus regional versus local versus hyper local. Same thing with economic news. When something is announced regarding the economy, know how that is impacting the market. And then you don't have to know everything, but there's certain things that you want, like job numbers, right? Job numbers with the information that tends to impact the stock markets are things that we kind of want to have knowledge of. So job numbers, GDP numbers, 10-year treasury note, which is tied directly to interest rates, and then what drives the 10-year note. Those are the kind of things that we want to pay attention to. And then once we've gotten that down, then we can kind of expand that knowledge base. And again, this isn't about needing to know everything. It's about needing to know the few things that are important where we can then inform our clients and make them more knowledgeable so they can make better decisions. Any questions on this here? Because this is a lot here, but this is good stuff here. So you guys want to definitely these 4 steps to building expertise. This is worth going deep on. Any questions on that? All right, all right. Moving right along. Learn the market. Know your lore. So lore is an acronym that stands for the language of real estate. If you go to your market center and you can either ask your team leader or assistant team leader or your market center administrator, even your productivity coach, they should all have access to lore numbers. And lore numbers are going to be, it's going to be information that articulates how your market center, your office, your Keller Williams office is doing in comparison to the market. So let's say that average, the market as a whole, homes are selling for 97% of list price. And in your market center, homes are selling for 101% of list price. Well, that's information that you would definitely want to let your sellers know, right? And that our market center and our office, our homes are selling for over list price. And in the MLS, they're selling for 97% of list price. Well, Lore takes all that information and puts it into the sound bites and snippets that you can then share with your clients. You can share on social media, and you can use to help build your own value proposition as a newer agent until you have the experience to stand on. So, as a newer agent, you're really going to lean on your company, you're going to lean on your office, and you're going to lean on the company's accolades while you build your own business and career and then can stand alone. And even as you stand alone, you will always have the accolades of the company and your office to stand behind you in a supportive role. And again, that's lore. Second one, knowing your business. Notice changes over time in your personal business. Let's see. What are some of the publications, news outlets that you subscribe to learn the market and build your level of expertise? Um, I've got this in another slide, but I'll tell it to you right now. Um, I would be listening to the Millionaire Real Estate Agent podcast with Jason Abrams, who's the head of industry with Keller Williams. We've got over 100 episodes of that podcast. It's the number one podcast in the real estate space. It's got over 1 million downloads. And Jason Abrams is just brilliant. I mean, he is brilliant. When I grow up, I want to be like Jason Abrams. And then hopefully he would see this and say, gosh. But he's a brilliant, he's one of the best speakers I've ever had the opportunity to listen to. And he's a brain. Um, He's coming to Yuma tomorrow morning. I get to go see him in person. Well, you should bring a friend, Jessica, because that's going to be an experience. MRA podcasts are awesome. Yes, they are. There used to be a podcast called, and I don't recall what it was, but the guy stopped doing it. If I can think about it, I'll come back to it. But he used to do a 15-minute weekly podcast that talked about the national numbers. And I would take that information and then I would run that through Otter AI and get a summary and then be able to share that summary. But there's publications out there. Keller Williams also has I think it's at least a monthly market update video that you can, what I would do is I would take that video and like I said, I would play that video and I would run it through AI or take the transcription, transcribe the video into AI and say, create a 5 bullet point summary that I can share with buyers and then that I can share with sellers and have AI basically spit that out for you. And then you can have that. You can put a prompt into AI once you've identified that source, right? To say every single week, go grab this information and create a 5 point summary that I can share with buyers and sellers. All right. So moving right along, we are now at Learn Your Clientele. We talked about that. Who are the buyers, right? Who are the buyers? What's the demographic? What's the age group? What sort of jobs do they have? What's important to them, right? Is settling down important to them, or is it a lifestyle? Right? And the difference between the two would be someone who's more concerned about settling down is going to want to go ideally buy a house, maybe in the suburbs, maybe somewhere that's less expensive, that's affordable, where they see themselves getting married and having children and raising a family. Someone who's more so interested in a lifestyle, like out in LA, if you're making a lifestyle choice, then you want to live close to the beach, right? You want walkability. You like to be able to get up, go across the street, look at the waves, and make a decision, am I surfing or not, before I go get in the shower and go to work, right? That's a lifestyle choice. And it's either or depending on who you are and where you are in life and what matters most to you. But when we know that information about buyers and we know that information about sellers, what's the average age of sellers, right? What sort of decisions are sellers making? Are they still upsizing or are they downsizing? Are they still having kids or are they more empty nesters? When we know who the buyers and the sellers are, we know what the opportunities are of how to serve them. So one thing about real estate is that, like I said, you don't want to be all over the place. You're better off with a niche, right? The riches are in the niches. So if there's certain types of buyers that you want to work with, there's certain types of sellers, if it's, seniors or if it's downsizers or if it's first-time home buyers or if it's, hey, I bought a house and now I want to buy an investment property or I want to buy a condo or whatever that looks like, you know, learn a niche and find your place there. And it's a lot better than figuring out that like I got to learn everything. I got to know everything before I can help someone because that's a trap we can get into. We think we have to know and learn everything before we can be of service to anyone, and it's just not true. We just need to pick a lane, stay in that lane, learn how to drive in that lane, and then go. So same thing with sellers. And does the market benefit your clients? That's a great question there, right? Does the market benefit your clients? Well, if it's a buyer's market, that benefits your clients if they're buying. If it's a seller's market, that benefits your clients if they're selling. And yet, when we know the intricacies about a market, then we can speak. There can be something that's happening that may be an inherent benefit to either a buyer or a seller, and yet it can still create an opportunity for both of them. And that's why when we know information about the market and we can have buyers say, well, I'm not buying now, I'm waiting until interest rates drop. Well, great. What do you think 80% of the other buyers are going to do? They're waiting for interest rates to drop too, right? So what do you think is going to happen when rates go from 6.15 to 5.75? You and every other buyer that's sitting on the fence is going to hop off the fence and get in the market. Well, guess what happens when that happens? There's not enough inventory. The homes that are on the market are going to go up in price because there's more competition and they're going to sell for more. So even though interest rates dropped 0.5%, you're still paying more for that home that you didn't want to buy today. So we have to know, right, based on what's going on and what someone's intentions are and what their motivations and time frames are, we have to be able to articulate what's the opportunity in the moment in spite of the markers that they may be using to make decisions. And interest rates is a big one. Now, some people can't buy unless interest rates are a certain level. Well, they don't have a choice but to wait until they drop and then they can afford. But for other people who can buy, like right now, I think now's a great time to buy. Why do I think now's a great time to buy? It's early in the year. We've seen some indicators as to what's going on. We know with what's going on in Venezuela and the oil, gas prices are dropping. Lower gas prices it's an automatic stimulus because it's more money in people's pockets. And when people have more money in their pockets, they just feel better. They feel safer. They feel more secure. When they have more money in their pockets and they feel better, then they can say yes to a decision like buying a home. And we see interest rates under 6%. And my guess and what I'm seeing and hearing is that this trend of lower rates is going to continue. I think we're going to see that. So I see an opportunity to buy now as opposed to waiting until March or April, which is traditionally the beginning of the spring buying season when you get more buyers into the market. So I'd rather be out looking right now for an opportunity for someone who's motivated or maybe who's been on the market since last fall to negotiate a good deal with a lower interest rate and less competition. But we have to know how to articulate that to buyers because otherwise they're just going to do what they think is in their best interest, right? And people know what they know and they don't know what they don't know. And that's why it's our job to be the ones that are giving them the information that they need so they can make better decisions. And does the market put your clients at risk? Well, market conditions change just like the weather. And we have to, I think one of the most important questions to ask people, especially in this type of economic climate, is how do you feel about your job stability? And if you don't feel good about your job stability, then I would not be buying a house, period. On the other hand, if you feel secure about your job stability and yeah, I'm good, nothing's going to happen, great, then let's move forward. But that's probably one of the biggest questions that I would be asking at a buyer consultation. How do you feel about your job stability over the next 12 to 24 months? All right. Any questions on this and learning your clientele? So we got buyers, we got sellers, knowing who they are, knowing who our avatar is, knowing about the market, how there can be something that takes place that inherently is going to benefit one or the other, but can create an opportunity for both. And then what's going on in the market? What's going on in the economy? And how is that impacting someone who's considering making a buying or selling decision? This is all about how do we inform our clients, right? How do we educate and inform our clients so they can self-discover what is in their best interest? That is our job. That's what we do. Part of making that emotional connection is educating and informing an individual so they can self-discover what is in their best interest. And when they self-discover, they're able to make their own decision that we support. And people appreciate that. We all appreciate coming into knowledge that allows us to make a clear decision. We're thankful for that. All right, moving right along. Listen to individuals, take a grassroots approach, learn where your sphere gets information, right? Who are you listening to? Where are you getting your information from? Credible source. And when you find a credible source, like tap into that. Tap into that so where you get it ongoing. So every week you're building your knowledge base. And there gets to be, when we do things with consistency, we build a cadence and a rhythm around it. And when we can build a cadence and a rhythm around education and how we're building and expanding our knowledge base, it's pretty cool. It's good stuff because we can look back and say, well, 3 months ago I didn't know anything about this, and now I can articulate quite a bit about it. But that only happens if we're tapped in consistently and we're making it a daily practice, right? Anything that we do on a daily basis is really what's changing and impacting our lives. And nothing changes until it's something that has to do with what you do every single day. So when we're committed to being knowledge, or we're committed to being learning based, and we're always seeking knowledge, then we're just like a sponge that's taking it in. We're just like a little sapling that's growing, and over time we go from here to there, and that just builds that confidence, right? That competence builds that confidence, and then we feel good about who we are and what we do and how we can serve people. And keep the headlines in context. Yeah. And this is so important right now because there's just, there is, well, there's a lot of stuff that's just on fire right now. So, uh, keep it in context. Anything, just know that there's something to be said about everything. And in regard to real estate and the news and the information, have a credible source around it. Know what news, the context in which it may be taken, and then the context in which it actually is taken. And that's to read past the headlines and know your numbers, right? Because when you know your numbers, right, numbers don't lie. When you know your numbers, then you can speak knowledgeably about what's really going on in the market. So when someone tells you I'm waiting for foreclosures to come back, then you can say, well, you may be waiting a long time, and here's why. Here's what the national numbers on foreclosures look like for 2024 and 2025, and here's where they're expected for 2026. And based on these numbers, unless you were an all cash investor that had a relationship with an asset manager at a bank, you're most likely never going to see that foreclosure come to the market. And if it does come to the market and you're not an all cash investor, you're going to get beat out by that all cash investor who's more experienced, who's more savvy, who doesn't need a loan contingency or an inspection contingency, who can buy it with a walkthrough and close in 10 days. Now, instead of looking at that foreclosure, why don't we go look at some opportunities that have been on the market for 90 or 120 days and find a really motivated seller who no longer wants what they have? That's the difference here when we know our numbers. Because otherwise, someone says, I'm waiting for foreclosures. And we go, okay, well, who do you know that's looking to buy other than you? Right. So knowing your numbers is very important. All right. One of my favorite screens, ahas. What do we got? Who's got an aha for me? Where do I get my inspiration from? I get my inspiration from life. Learn your clientele. And there's that's I meant that truthfully. I love what I do. I love teaching. I love this company. So I'm always this gets me fired up. It's important to know in life what sparks you, right? And when it comes to real estate and it comes to lead generation, it's really important to figure out what lights you up. What can you do day in and day out that you're not going to get tired of, that you're going to be able to do without fail, because that's going to have a big impact on your success. Commission breath. Absolutely. We don't want it. All of this, aha. Yes. Yes. There we go. There we go. All right. The disc is very important. If you guys have never taken a disc, run to your market center and say, hey, I want to take a disc, and then take it and learn something about yourself. Right? Because a lot of people come into this industry and they've never taken anything like a DISC profile. They don't know what their natural personality style is. They don't know what their adapted style is. They have no idea. Most of us, we don't know what we don't know. And then when we come into that information, we're like, whoa. So here's an opportunity to learn something about yourself that you didn't know beforehand that'll help you better connect the dots. And when we can better connect the dots ourselves, then we can better connect dots for others. All right. So I'm going to kind of cruise through here because we do have to get to some. It's 7:15, and we've got another chapter to get through. So we're going to kind of speed things up here, utilizing apps. Download KW Command if you don't have it already. This is something that your MCA can, this should have been part of your onboarding process to download Command. Once you've got it downloaded, know how to share that app with your friends, your buyers, your sellers. You can put it on your email signature as well. Here's the reality: 90% of people are going to be on Zillow or Redfin, and that's okay. we want to have our command app as an option to share with them. Um, there's a lot of features that work within the command app and the command platform where we can see in real time as people are searching on the app, see what properties they looked at, and then we can say, hey, we can call them and have a conversation. Hey, I just saw you looked at 1234 Main Street. Would you be interested in seeing that home this weekend? But know the functionality of the command app. It's like you pay for it. It's the company offering. It does have some really good search features. And it's getting better. Everything with command, both the app and the platform itself, is increasingly getting better and has come leaps and bounds in the years since it first launched. So learn how to use it and leverage it because it's technology that you get from being here and it can take you pretty far. Same thing with command. If nothing else, get your contacts into command, get them on a 36 touch smart plan, and then get them on the DTD2. And the DTD2, you want to write this down, and I'll see if I can drop this in the chat. The DTD2 is do the database to. And it is it's a way in which you can communicate with your entire database every 3 months by making quarterly calls. So for the DTD2 this week are the letters B and E. So people in your database with the last names that starts with a B and E, those would be the people that you would call. And then every single week there's just a different series of 2 letters and you call, and then by the time you get through the 12th week, you have reached out to your entire database. And then it just kind of repeats. So having a database that is you're making the DTD2 calls to, and it is on a 36 touch program is part of what they call the 201 Plus Club at KW, the 201 Plus Club. And if I don't drop this in the chat, I'll make sure when this is all said and done that I do send this email over um, to the admin team at for Ignite After Dark, so you guys can get a copy of the DTD2 schedule for 2026 and see what that looks like as well, and then information about the 201 Club. And basically, the 201 Club is they did a lot of research and figured out that people in the company that had at least 201 contacts in command that were on a 36 touch and that were doing the DTD2, there was about a 50 something $1,000 difference in GCI that was made between those people and people who had fewer than 200 contacts. I think it went from like 77,000 to like 121, something like that. But that's the 201 Club. And if you do nothing more in command, then have your database on a 36 touch smart plan and you're following the DTD2, you are leaps and bounds amongst the masses and on your way to success. Okay, information about the app. Here's what I put in there. These are some other podcasts that you can listen to from KW. Think Like a CEO. That's Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. You definitely want to check that one out. The Color of Money is a great podcast as well. Empire Building. This is kind of this started off as like a female group. There's 5 or 6 very talented, phenomenal female business owners within Keller Williams who I think have like a combined net worth of like $70 million. I mean, they are rock stars. And they really just talk about like it's really it's more so from a female perspective, but it's very informative, how you can have a big life and raise a family and things like that. But it's a great podcast, as is The Color of Money. And then the real estate market update as well. I think this comes out at least every other week, if not monthly. And this is the one that I would say you can transcribe this, right? So if you'd had this podcast playing and you have Otter AI or some other equivalent AI note taker, you can transcribe this podcast and then get a summary for it. And I would recommend you guys do that. And then, like I said, set that up in AI to where every single week AI is going to grab that page or your schedule to upload that transcription to get that market update. Okay, establish your business on social media. Like 10 posts a day, write 5 comments a day, send one direct message. So be intentional about your time on social media. If you're going to be on it, be intentional before you're just there, wasting time there. So the 10-5-1 is one way to do it. Um, Birthdays as well. My old partner, he still does every day on Facebook when the birthdays come up, he calls the people and he wishes them happy birthday. He sings happy birthday to them. I've got another buddy who does the same, but he sends them a video. That's very impactful, especially on your birthday. And even if you haven't talked to someone in years, when you call them to wish them happy birthday, they're happy and glad to hear from you. So, just a couple ideas of how we can leverage social media above and beyond just as a time suck to really be able to communicate and connect with people and get business from them. KW Next Gen. This is a 501c nonprofit that Gary Keller started, and what they do is they serve young professionals and entrepreneurs under 30 looking to grow personally, professionally, and financially. They teach Quantum Leap, which is a phenomenal course available through KW. So we teach Quantum Leap to young adults, and this is really, really a great organization here. And I'm affiliated with this, and I am getting my instructor certification to teach Quantum Leap to young adults through KW Next Gen. KW Cares, caring agents. So this is another nonprofit that a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to serving Keller Williams Realty Associates and their qualifying family members experiencing hardships as a result of a sudden emergency. So we've seen that, right? Last year, we saw that here in LA with the fires. We've seen that with the hurricanes. We've seen it with the floods, the mudslides. And I've never seen any company in my existence show up for people the way this company does to serve their agents in needs. God forbid you ever have to be in need of being a recipient for KW Cares. But if you ever are, you're going to thank God that you are with a company that has this in place. This is what separates us from other companies. This is part of our culture. This is a big deal. And you have an opportunity to donate through KW Cares with every one of your closings by just checking a little box and putting in an amount. And it can be $5, $10, $20, whatever the amount is. But this is impact here. This makes a difference in the lives of a lot of people. So it's a good thing. All right, we're on our recap page. So we talked about knowing your market, right? We talked about the type of market, buyer, seller, balanced. We talked about inventory. 6 months is balanced. Less than 6 is a seller's market. More than 6 is a buyer's market. We talked about interest rates and lenders. You should have 3 lenders. Ideally, one of them is bilingual. You have a primary lender and 2 secondary lenders. Maybe you have one of those secondary lenders who's a niche lender. So all of your business wouldn't go to them, but your buyer who's unique, right? Maybe they're stated income, or they're doing a bank statement loan, or they're a foreign national, or whatever that looks like. Have lenders who can service a variety of clients and not just be cookie cutter. And I only do the 20% down, 700 FICO score loans, because anybody can do those loans. Also have lenders who have opportunities for buy downs and who can lock with a specific lender. And if rates drop, they can move you and relock to another lender. That one's huge. So write that one down for certain. Have a lender who can move you to a different investor if rates drop to take advantage of the lower rate. Economic factors, the three-eyed monster, inflation, inventory. What's the third one there? Inflation, inventory, and I'm drawing a blank.
Interest.
Interest rates. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The three-eyed monster. Other market factors, anything that's going on in the economy at the local level, at the national level, natural disasters, anything. Things seem very stable. And yet, if you've ever been part of a natural disaster, you see how things can break down pretty quickly, especially at the supermarket. Like we think a lot of things are real stable, but things are pretty fragile, and it doesn't take a lot to disrupt things at the core. And knowing how that impacts the market is important. Building your expertise, learn the market, right? No price points, price per square foot, average days on market, percentage of homes that need a price reduction, median sales price, average sales price. Have an idea of what that looks like at the local level. Learn your clientele, right? Not just buyers and sellers in the area, but who's your ideal avatar? What is their DISC? Once I know their DISC profile, I know how to communicate with them. I know how to speak to their listening. Listen to individuals. Where am I getting my information from? Is it a credible source? And keep the headlines in context. Know why headlines are headlines and know how to read between the lines to get the context, to get to the truth. Right? No matter what is being said or spoken, our job is to get to the truth so we can then share that information with our buyers and sellers. All right, so we're just going to keep moving along here. Success system. I'm going to say this on the success system. Success in real estate really comes down to just doing a few simple things daily. It's not about doing a ton of things. It's really about doing just a handful of things, but being consistent in them and knowing the play. Know the play and then how to run that play. That's really what it's all about. It's just like a football game or just like a basketball game. When there's a timeout in the basketball game, you got the coach on the sidelines. He's got the whiteboard, right? He's doing the play. Same thing in the huddle, right? Quarterback, they know that here's the play. We got to wake up every single day and know which play we're running, right? Because we are the quarterbacks of our own business. And if we wake up and we don't know what kind of play to run, then how are we going to be able to run a business? How would you be able to lead a team if you're the quarterback and you don't know which play to call? So it's the same thing. Okay, so we're now moving to defining your value. And we're going to run through this because we got half an hour, but I think we're going to get through it. So mindset matters. And I'm going to start by giving you a definition of mindset. A mindset is a series of self-perceptions or beliefs people hold about themselves. I'll say this again. A mindset is a series of self-perceptions or beliefs people hold about themselves. These determine behavior, outlook, and mental attitude. For example, believing you are either intelligent or unintelligent. So if you talk about having the proper mindset, right? What's going on in your head? What's the self-talk? Right? What's the conversation going on in between your two ears? Because that's impacting what you think. Based on what you think, it's impacting how you feel. Based on how you feel, it impacts what action you're taking or not taking. So anything you can do as far as we don't even have time to go into what having a clear mind is. But it's really important. It's really important to have the proper mindset. And how do you wake up every day and prepare yourself for what's ahead, right? Having a powerful morning routine, for me is getting up and it's 10, 15-minute meditation and it's gratitude and then it's going to work out and then it's looking at what my day is going to consist of, my three objectives and then getting after it during the peak hours when energy is high and focus and clarity is there. And knowing that willpower is something that's perishable and it starts to wane as we get into the day. So what sort of mindset are we bringing to each day? And that all starts with how we end each day as well. So we need to be able to bookend our days, right? We need to have powerful morning routines and we need to have an evening routine where we can recap on the day and then set our intentions for the next day and then clear the slate. So we wake up with a clean mind and we're able to go after the next day and not carry over the yuck and the sludge and from the day before. All right, commit to the 80-20 principle. So the 80-20 principle is Pareto's principle. Pareto was an Italian physicist, I believe, who back in the 15th century saw this correlation that 20% of the farmers owned 80% of the land, 20% of the farmers produced 80% of the crops, 20% of the people had 80% of the money. And it was just a few of these that he saw that this consistency that led to this law. And it is basically 20% of our actions are going to lead to 80% of our desired result. In real estate, the 20% comes down to five things. So the 20% of a real estate agent, and you do want to write this down. Number one, lead generation. Number two, lead follow-up. Number three, setting and going on appointments. Number four, negotiating contracts. And number five, daily script and role play. Again, lead generation, lead follow-up, setting and going on appointments, negotiating contracts, daily script and role play. Now, here's the thing. If you're new in this industry and you don't have any deals in escrow, you're not negotiating contracts. And if you're not going on any appointments, well, guess what? That leaves all your time to do the three most important things: lead gen, lead follow-up, and daily script and role play. I am of the belief that daily script and role play should be at the top of that list. I would rather spend time on daily script and role play so when I go to lead gen, I know what I'm saying. I have the competence and the confidence to lead generate. If I don't have the competence and the competence to lead generate, then I'm not going to be very effective at it. And when I'm not effective at it, I'm going to want to do it less because there's going to be more resistance around it because I'm feeling the sense of failure in the action. And my goal is to feel the sense of accomplishment and achievement. So when I know what I'm saying and I'm having intelligent conversations with people who can make a buying or selling decision, I'm going to feel better about it. And if I feel better about it, I'm more likely to get up and do it the next day. So that's where daily script and role play comes in. Now, between lead generation and lead follow-up, I am of the belief where I would say if I had to build the muscle, I would be more inclined to build the muscle of lead follow-up before lead generation. I say that. I don't know who's going to contradict that. Maybe there's a lot of people. Here's why. Because if your lead follow-up game is strong, that means no leads fall through the crack. No sand is getting through your hands. That means you're going to convert a higher percentage of the fewer leads that you have. Because most of the people in this industry don't have a lead generation problem. They have a lead follow-up problem. And you can learn how to turn on the funnel of lead generation and have a ton of leads. And if your follow-up game is weak, then the majority of your time is spent making a little bit of money. I would rather have a strong follow-up game and then go into lead generation. Because if your follow-up game is strong, every conversation that you have, every person in your database, every person that you meet at an open house, every Facebook lead that you generate is going to be taken care of. They're going to be communicated with properly. This is big. So time's a great equalizer, right? We all get 24 hours in a day, and after that, there's nothing. We're no one's equal. How we use that time is the most important thing in our life. And the older we get, the less we have of it. So the more important it is for us to utilize it and not let people and circumstances take it from us. It is the biggest commodity that we have. And in the six personal perspectives, this is perspective number two. Perspective number one is commit to self-mastery, which is like being learning based, right? Like my craft of real estate, my profession, my vocation. I commit to self-mastery. I commit to becoming the best that I can possibly be as an individual and as a real estate agent. And I commit to the 80-20 rule. I don't have knowledge of it. I don't have an understanding of it. I commit to it because time is the biggest commodity. And it's the most sacred one outside of our health. All right. The six core competencies of a business: lead generate, capture, and convert to appointments, present to buyers and sellers, get an agreement, show buyers and market sellers, write and negotiate contracts, coordinate the sale at closing, and manage the money. So again, we've got lead generate and follow up. Where are they going to present to buyers? We're going to show them market sellers, write contracts and negotiate, coordinate the sale, and then manage the money. And there is no money to manage unless we've done these effectively. And unfortunately, we work hard and don't get paid until the end of a closing. So managing the money is important and knowing how to get to the money, right? The four C's, knowing how to get to the money is important because there won't be any to manage if we don't know how to get there. All right, the value proposition. What matters to buyers and sellers? Define your value proposition and the daily success system. So your value proposition. Your value proposition is a unique, memorable, and persuasive statement that expresses the true value of working with you. It addresses the specific and special needs of the buyers and sellers in your market. It states what you will do for your client to earn your commission fee, and it holds you accountable to high standards. All right. So my unique value proposition, I figured I would just kind of read this to you guys. And this is going to change as you guys grow as agents and as people, as individuals. And when I say grow as individuals, is that if you stay with this company long enough, you're going to grow. And you're not going to be the person in 6 months that you are today. And in 12 months, you're going to be different. In 2 years, you'll be much different. You'll look back at that older version of yourself and say, wow, I've come a long way. So your value proposition. Mine basically says, if you're buying a home, I offer several tools and technologies outside of the MLS to help you find the ideal property based on your needs and wants, area, and price range. Using my strong communication and relationship building skills, I negotiate price and terms on your behalf and work diligently to preserve the transaction and bring it to a successful close. That's just an example of value proposition. When it comes time to build your value proposition as a newer agent and like you don't have experience or knowledge to stand on, what can you take from your previous occupation? What can you take about you that is a character trait? Right? I mean, if you were a bartender like I was for years or waited tables, hey, I can work in a fast-paced environment. I can multitask, right? If you were an Uber driver, I know every shortcut in this city, right? It's how we spin and sell what we have until we have something that we feel is comfortable to stand on in relationship to the industry and what we're doing. One thing I will say as far as a value proposition that you can use is being an active agent versus a passive agent. And you want to write this down here. So a passive agent, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Yes, I may be a new agent, and yet here's the thing about me. I am an active agent and not a passive agent. Can I explain to you the difference? Yes. Great. A passive agent is someone who will take your listing and then they will do the three P's. They will, number one, put it in the MLS. They will, number two, put a sign in front of your home. And number three, they will get on their knees and they will pray that another agent brings them a buyer for your home. That's what a passive agent does. As an active agent, when I take your listing, I'm going to put it in the MLS. I'm going to put the sign in the yard. And then here's what else I'm going to do. Before the open house, I'm going to door knock the 20 neighbors across the street, the 20 on the left of you and the 20 on the right, and let them know that your home's for sale. I'm also going to call 100 of your neighbors and let them know that your home is for sale and that it'll be open on Sunday from 1 to 4. And at my team meeting, I'm going to pitch your property, speaking to its features and benefits, and let people know that it's a great opportunity and for them to come by and take a look at it either at the open house or during the broker's open. In addition to that, I'm also going to run Facebook ads for your property from the day it gets listed to the day it closes. And as those buyers come in, I'm going to communicate with those buyers, pre-qualify them, and see if any of them are a good fit for your home. Do you see how the actions of an active agent will help your home sell for more faster than that of a passive agent. Great. There's a value proposition for you. Active agent versus passive agent. It's simple, but it's doing. It's not just saying, it's doing. And when you can differentiate yourself as a new agent for what you're willing to do and what you will do, that in the seller's mind is enough. Same thing for a buyer, right? A passive buyer's agent may just look on the MLS every single day, and if they see a property, they'll let you know about it. Well, as an active buyer's agent, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to knock every single door in the area in which you say you want to live, and I'm going to let people know that I have a pre-approved buyer who's able, ready, and willing to buy a home to see if there's anyone who would also want to sell a home. Right? I'm going to look up expired listings, unsold listings, withdrawn listings, canceled listings, reach out to listing agents. I'm going to pitch your need at the sales meeting. Do you see how an active buyer's agent will help find you a home faster than a passive agent will? And oftentimes be able to do so and have there be less competition. And if you are a active buyer's agent and you're doing those actions, you are also unveiling listing opportunities if that home that you find is not a fit for the buyer that you're searching for. So we don't need to be experienced to have a value proposition. We just need to have actions that we're going to stand by and be able to articulate, here's how I am going to work in getting your home sold or work in getting you the ideal home and then negotiating price and terms on your behalf. Right. Benefits of a value proposition. They helps your client understand the value and expertise, protects the commission fee, builds strong and trusting relationships. Now, benefits. So features are what something offers. Benefits is how it impacts the buyer or the seller, right? So features are objective facts about a product, its component specifications and functions, while benefits are the positive outcomes or advantages a customer gains from those features, right? If your car has four-wheel drive, that's a feature. Well, what's the benefit? The benefit is you're not sliding around the roads in the middle of January if you live in Chicago, right? The actions of an active agent turn into the benefits of helping you get sold faster for more money or helping you find a home in an inventory in a market of tight inventory. And the benefits also answer the question WIFM. That's a radio station that a lot of people listen to. WIFM, it's what's in it for me. So when you can articulate features and how those features benefit buyers and sellers, they are tuning in to WIFM and they're seeing, wow, this is what's in it for me. Okay. Value proposition examples. Walmart, everyday low prices for a broad range of goods that are always in stock in convenient geographic locations. Now, years ago, their value proposition was the lowest price, and they had to change that because they couldn't prove that they were always the lowest price. QuickBooks, send invoices in minutes and get paid 2 days faster. Airbnb. Airbnb exists to create a world where anyone can belong anywhere, providing healthy travel that is local, authentic, diverse, inclusive, and sustainable. So we know value propositions for a lot of the companies and services that we use. Connecting to your value, KW and Market Center value. You have access to the collective knowledge and experience of nearly 200,000 agents worldwide. And up until last week, we were the largest real estate company in the world. But since the merger of Compass and CB and the other parent company, they now have like over 340,000 agents. So we're no longer the largest, but hey, that's okay. Fiduciary, right? As a real estate agent. I'm going to give you the definition of fiduciary here. An agent or broker who has a legal and ethical obligation to act in the best interest of their client, buyer, or seller, putting the client's needs above their own, established through trust and often formalized in a signed agreement. So, as a fiduciary, we put the client's needs first and foremost above our own always. And as a true fiduciary, we assume that the client knows nothing. Doesn't matter if it's the first house that they've ever purchased or the third house they've purchased in 5 years. We assume that they know nothing, and our job is to educate them and inform them so they can make a knowledgeable decision because information changes, laws change, contracts change, markets change. And even though they may have bought 3 homes in the last 5 years, the one they're buying today, there's something different that they need to know about it. Even if they think, oh, well, we know what we're doing. We bought 3 homes in 5 years. Well, they just changed the contract last month. So let me explain to you the changes and how they're going to impact you. And as a market expert, I can help you price your home to sell because I'm very tuned into the market of the moment, right? That's the competence that I talked about, that competence that leads to confidence, and that confidence that then leads to someone being able to make a emotional connection with them where they can feel the trust and the confidence and the safety. And that's all it is. It's trust, confidence, and safety. And when we can elicit that, then sign the contract. And that has nothing to do about selling. All right. Who's got an aha for me before we take it down to the final stretch? Thank you, Ava. Thank you. Can you share your active agent buyer and seller action for your list? I'm going to have to get that typed up. I did look for that. I'm sorry I couldn't find it, but I will find it. And as part of this class, when the recording goes out, you'll have access to that because it is great. And like I said, it's a value proposition for a new agent that you can use, and it never gets old and it never gets stale. All right. What matters to buyers and sellers? For buyers, their goal is to find the right home at the best price at the right time with the least number of problems, right? That's our job. That's why they hire buyer's agents. Find me the home. Now, how you do that is what differentiates you and separates you from the other agent choices that any buyer has. But we have to be able to articulate that to them. Here's how I find that home for you. For sellers, their goal is to net the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of problems, right? Now, least amount of problems. Is any transaction ever foolproof and perfect? No, it's not. Not at all. And yet, when we can tell people up front, here's how this is going to work, right? Here's how we're going to deal with something that comes up, be it a problem or a situation or a hiccup. I've got one right now in a deal that was supposed to close before Christmas, and now we have a notice to the seller to perform. So it may be going down a legal route, but things come up. So thank you for that, Tony. I did see that comment there. Appreciate that. All right. In The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, Gary Keller explains for buyers, their goal is to find just the right home at the best price and the right time with the least number of problems. Right. And here's the thing, when we educate people and inform people and allow them to self-discover so they can be empowered to make good decisions, when problems come up, they tend not to blame us. It's the circumstance, it's not us. When we're not educating, when we're not informing, when we're not explaining, when we just blow through the contract and get people to sign because we haven't taken the time to learn it, that's when problems arise. So when we are in communication with our clients and we're empowering them with the information to make good decisions, we keep the problem. We don't have to take ownership of the problem. We take ownership of resolving any problem And yet we don't have to own it as being the source of the problem. All right, top 10 service areas of the buyer value proposition. I think this is on page 95 of the MREA the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. So the top 10 service areas of the buyer value proposition. And you can use this as part of your buyer consultation. We're going to do a needs analysis where we're going to figure out what do you need to have in a house versus what do you like, right? This is what I mentioned earlier. Getting clear, right? I need to be on the first floor of the condo complex. I had a knee replacement. I can't do stairs. I need to be on the second floor. I travel a lot and my wife is home alone. Those are needs. Those are deal breakers. So we have to know what needs are versus wants. I'd like to have a pool, but if it doesn't have a pool, if the backyard's big enough where I can put a pool in one day, okay, that's a want. Know the difference and then educate our buyers on what needs are versus wants so they can get clear on them. Pre-qualification or pre-approval, let's just go pre-approval. Pre-quals, don't even use that lingo. We want our buyers pre-approved and ideally we want them DU approved, direct underwritten approval, which means that the underwriter, who is the person that the lender sends the buyer's package to, has reviewed all the documents and has given their John Hancock to approve that buyer subject to finding the right property. That's a DU approval. That means you are slam dunked. We can go 10-day loan approval. We can go no loan approval. When you are DU underwritten, your buyer is as strong as they are ever going to be. And when you get them DU approved and you're writing offers, making sure you got a copy of that DU approval and that you're articulating that to the listing agent in regard to your buyer's approval. Neighborhood information, home search, make an offer, negotiate to buy, vendor coordination, right? Having 3 home inspectors. If there's something that comes up with the roof, hey, do I have 3 people to do on the roof? Pre-close preparation, closing, and post-closing. Seller, same thing, needs analysis, pricing strategy. So here's the thing with buyers and sellers. When buyers are looking in a certain area or they find a home, you're going to go through the same process that you would do with someone who wants to sell that home. You're going to do a comparative market analysis on the home. You're going to look at what the current activity is, what's recently gone under contract, what's sold in the last 90 days, and what's currently on the market that isn't selling to get an idea of the offer price that you're going to make. You'll use that same information to then determine what price you're going to put on that home when you're representing the seller. Marketing strategy. What are we going to do to expose the property? When we receive offers, how are we negotiating those offers? This is where we make money as listing agents here, right? Negotiating sales and getting through the request for repairs. That's where we make money as listing agents because that's where deals fall apart. So if sellers, if they want to know how you earn your money, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when we get you under contract, my ability to successfully negotiate this deal through the request for repairs and get you to a closing, this is where we get paid. This is where deals fall apart, and our ability to successfully navigate these waters is where we earn our keep. Closing and post-closing. I'll say this about post-closing. 90% plus of clients would use the same real estate agent again. And about 75%, when polled, said they either had an okay or a good experience with an agent. And yet only about 13 to 15% use the agent again. Why is that? Because we don't stay in communication with the agents post-close. So if without an effective post-close follow-up campaign, you lose the opportunity for repeat and referral buyers or sellers. So if you're a new agent, your buyers today should be your sellers in the next 3 to 4 years when they, get married, have a kid, need more space, get a promotion, all those things. Post-close, how are we staying in communication with people that we transact with? Because this is what our future business is based on. This is going from being transactional to being relational. When you're transactional, you're only thinking about the commission on the table and the buyer in front of you. When you're relational, you're building relationships and you're maintaining relationships for the rest of your career. And there is so much money to be made in being relational in this business. It is, can't even think about it. It's just how you look at it. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. All right, what buyers want most, 52%. They want to find me the house, help me negotiate it, help with price negotiations. And then 24%, what is this? Other communication, right? Connect with them on an emotional level. That builds confidence and trust, not only in the beginning, but throughout the transaction. Communicate, communicate, communicate. That's what they want. Agent is honest and trustworthy, right? If you instill trust and confidence, well, then you're honest and trustworthy, or at least you can act that way. Agent's experience. Yeah, it's 19%, but I tell you what, if you focus more on being trustworthy and instilling confidence and trust and making someone feel safe, your experience won't even come into play. It just won't, because you're there, you've got them feeling a certain way. And when they feel a certain way, just the door's open. They're not going to lock the door. If you're in a safe neighborhood in a small town, like, you leave your door open, or at least you did, because it was safe to do so. What sellers want? They want to price the home competitively, help me get it sold. Find ways to fix it up so I can maximize my equity proceeds. Get it sold for the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the fewest headaches. That's basically it. And this 27% here of other communication. One of the biggest complaints that the community has about real estate agents is that they don't communicate. Don't be that person. Let your clients know how and when you're going to communicate with them. Right? Hey, I'm going to call you every Monday, talk about activity, open house, any offers, anything, right? Same thing with buyers. We'll talk on Fridays, right? Let you know what open houses are coming up, anything that we need to go see, anything we need to set appointments for. I may go with you. I may send you on your own. But when we're in communication with people, like, we know what it's like to be communicated with and to not be communicated with. So it's a big, big, big deal. Just back to value proposition. Now, we were supposed to spend some time going through this for value proposition. Um, there's an exercise here in your guide where you're supposed to go through and then write out. There's steps. Well, let's just look at this here real quick, right? So connect to your value, your market center value, you're a fiduciary, and you learn the market. Transform the value into benefits, right? What's in it for me? Here's what I do to help you find the home. Here's what I do to help you sell the home. Actions, benefits, active agent, passive agent. Build your value proposition statement. What can you carry from your previous occupation or profession and add that into a value proposition where you are essentially an active agent versus a passive agent? Or I've lived in this city for 20 years, or I drove Uber. I know every shortcut. Take what you know and use it to your benefit. And the more we get to know about ourselves, the more we know that what assets we have and how we can then use those as benefits to the client. Celebrate successes. So this is really, this is good here. Celebrate successes, because what we know is that we all want to feel a sense of achievement, right? We all want to know what success is like, because life's hard, right? We know that. So we need to set ourselves up for success. And we need to know that the baby sits up before it crawls. and then it crawls before it stands, and then it stands before it walks. And every time we start something new in life, it's hard. Everything is hard until it becomes easy. And this industry has an 85 to 90% fallout rate. So if you think you're just going to show up here and have success and ride the wave and not commit to what it takes, good luck. And yet, when we get up every day and we bring the right mindset to the right actions and we take actions and we do the right thing, we need to celebrate that because we're taking the right steps. Give yourself credit because this is not an easy industry. It's a simple industry. It's simple to be successful, but it's not easy. Because if it was easy, then you wouldn't have 80%, 80, 90% people falling out within a 2, 3 year period. Yes, 85 to 90% fallout rate. I did say that. It's just like when they're in the room and they talk about like cancer insurance and they say, well, 1 out of 2 people is going to get cancer. So just look to your left and look to your right. Who's it going to be? Well, as that is a truth, so is, the fact that 85 to 90% of people on this call right now most likely will not be in the industry in 3 to 5 years. Everyone can, and you're with the right company at the right time to be the ones who succeed. And yet it all comes from within. And we need to celebrate the small victories along the way. Okay. And last but not least, this is your opportunity to scan this QR code, find my name under instructor and Ignite session 4, and then give me an evaluation. Let me know how you feel about our 2 hours here. And 2 hours ago, I told you guys that in 2 hours, you're going to be at a point where you're going to be more informed, better educated, and hopefully inspired to go out and really be successful, not only in this industry in real estate, but in life. Because success is an inside out job, right? And like I said, a lot of these conversations that, on the deeper level be below buying and selling, it's all here, right? We all have stuff that we're dealing with. We all have stuff going on. And the reality is, if there's something that needs to be cleaned up here, we got to clean it up here before we see clear and order out here. And that's why things like the DISC profile, like doing the KPA, discovering who you are, learning a little bit more about yourself, how you tick. The more you know about that, then the better you can apply yourself to what you need to do to be successful. Because real estate is simple, it's just not easy. Don't know your region. Oh, okay. Someone can remember, not everyone in this class is a new agent. No, you're not. But you're never too old to take a learning lesson again. And a lot of agents do think that Ignite is just a new agent class when it's not, because you can take Ignite again and again and again. And it always comes, yeah, this was session 3 and 4. So new or old, the fundamentals never change. They're always the same, right? And just like any professional sport, it always goes down to the fundamentals. Every practice is about the fundamentals. So when we get into game situations, we can perform. No different in real estate, right? It's lead gen, lead follow-up, setting, going on appointments, negotiating contracts, script and role play. Meet people, ask questions, reveal opportunities, close for appointments, present, and then serve. All right, guys. That is all I got for you guys tonight. I may be back on another session in a couple of weeks. It was an absolute honor to be here with you guys tonight. I appreciate you all. And I'm going to drop my information here in the chat. And if you guys ever have any questions or want to reach out or say, hey, you talked about this, but you didn't drop it in the chat, I will promise to send you everything that I said I would. And if you're in the LA region, give me a call.
Anthony Brown.
Yes. So the recording, that's Sasha, either Matt or Alana. If you reply to one of the emails that are coming out from them, they would be able to tell you. I don't know exactly, but I do know that it comes out. So thank you. Thank you guys all.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Great job, Anthony.
Thank you, Tony. Anthony,
Thank you.
sorry. Good night.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And just
Thank you,
like
Mr. Anthony.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Peace and blessings to all you guys. And well, just like we played us in, we're gonna play us out because that's what I do. And this is for my man Bobby Weir from the Grateful Dead, who passed over the weekend. And amen to Bobby.
Good night.
There's mosquitoes on the river, fish are rising up like birds. It's been hot for 7 weeks now, too hot to even speak now. Did you hear what I just heard? Say it might have been a fiddle, or it could have been the wind. But there seems to be a beat now, I can feel it in my feet now. Listen, here it comes again.
There's a band out on the highway. They're high stepping into town. It's a rainbow full of sound. It's fireworks, calliopes, and clowns.
Everybody's dancing. Come on, children, come on, children, come on, clap your hands. Sun went down in honey, moon came up in wine. Stars were spinning dizzy, Lord, the band kept us so busy, we forgot about the time. They're a band beyond description, like Jehovah's favorite choir. People join in hand while the music plays the band. Lord, they're setting us on fire. Crazy rooster crowing midnight, balls of lightning roll along. Old men sing about their dreams, women laugh and children scream, and the band keeps playing on.
Keep on dancing
Keep on dancing to the daylight.
Greet the morning
Greet the
and
morning
song.
song.
No one's noticed,
Look,
but
the band's all packed and gone.
Was it
ever here at all? But they kept on dancing. Come on, children, come on, children, come on, clap your hands. Well, the cool breeze came on Tuesday, and the corn's a bumper crop, and the fields are full of dancing, full of singing and romancing.